Hi, this is Flash Johnson, and in this video we're going to learn how to make a basic Flash navigation structure. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a button. So we're going to have basically just a square. Zoom in here. Hold Shift down, make a perfect square. We now have a base graphic. As we double click on it, you'll see that there is an outline and there is a fill. We don't need the outline, so we're going to double click on the outline and we're going to delete it. We're now left with a base graphic, just a square. You can see the dots appear. That indicates that it's a base graphic. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a movie clip symbol. So we're going to go Modify, Convert to Symbol, or you could just press F8. So let's just press F8 since I want you to use your quick keys. So F8. And we're going to name this Square as a movie clip. Now that we have a basic movie clip in the library, which is our simple square, we now have something that we can use to create our generic button. So we're now going to take this movie clip and we're going to put it into a button symbol. So we're going to hit F8 again with it selected. And this time we're going to set it to be a button instead of a movie clip. And this is going to be our generic button. Alright, so we have a generic button that is made from this square. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create some animation inside the button so it has some interest. So we're going to drill into the button instance that's on the stage right now. We double click on it. And you will notice up here in the timeline we have our up, our over, and our down states. And we're going to right click on the over state and insert a keyframe which duplicates the previous frame. So we have an exact duplicate of that square now in a new frame for the over state. And what we're going to do here is we're going to give it some pulsating animation so that your viewer knows that they are hovering over the button. So what we're going to do is now put this in another movie clip, and we're going to hit F8. And then we're going to name this one our pulse. And this is going to be a movie clip, not a button, because we actually want that timeline to be available to us so we can create that animation. Now that we've done that, we over here in the library can see that we have our square, our pulse, which is made from the square, and then we're also going to now create the animation. So we double click. Oh, by the way, we are also inside of the button right now, okay? And we are in the over state frame, and we're going to create animation out of this. We double click in this. We are now in scene 1, generic button, inside of pulse. Here's our timeline. Here's our square. That square. We touch it. We look over here at our properties, and we can see that it is an instance of square. So what we're going to do now is we are going to come out in time, give it about 60, and insert a keyframe. So that keyframe created a duplicate of the previous keyframe, which is the square. And now on this one, we're going to right click and create a classic tween. And I'll go ahead and put it on this one too. Okay, and then we have a tween, except it's from one state to another state that are exactly the same. So what we're going to do is go to the center, and we're going to insert a new keyframe to break that so that we can create a new position in time. We're going to go over here to the free transform tool, hold Shift down, drag out so that it gets bigger. And I'll even come over to the properties and we will give it a color effect, a tint, and it'll be a different color we'll go ahead and say, make it, I'll say green, because green is a nice color. And now when we scroll across, we see that the square is getting bigger and green, and then returning back to size. And I'm not going to put a stop on this, so it's just going to repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's the overstate. Now we can double click on the screen here. It'll take us back out of that edit mode. We're now back in our generic button, and we back out again, and we're back on the stage. So we now have this button that has inside of it, if I double click on this, it has inside of it two states, an up state, which is just this normal state, and then an over state, which has the animation inside of it. So you can hit Control, Enter to do a quick test to see what this does, and you roll over it, and you see we get our nice little pulsating button. Okay, notice it turns to a hand. All right, now what we're going to do is go back to the scene 1, and I actually wanted it to pulsate quicker. So I click on the stage so I can get the stage properties, come down where it says 24, and I'm going to put it on 30 frames per second right here so it pulsates faster, and we'll test that later. Now what we're going to do is create the buttons for the locations that we're going to have. So we're going to have the home, and we're going to have 3 other places. So it's going to be the home, and then I'm going to make 3 places, a red, a green, and a blue subject areas. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to hold Control and Alt down, and then Shift, and I drag across. And it gives me a duplicate of these, so I can just quickly make these. So I have my home, and I have my red, green, blue area buttons. Now right now they're identical. They're all instances of generic button, but they do not have instance names yet. We're going to give them instance names. So we're going to click on the first one, come over to it, and this is going to be the home button. So it's going to be called home underscore BTN so that we know it's a button. And this is in lowercase on purpose so that we can know what it is later. And the next one is going to be called red underscore BTN. And the next one is going to be called green, since it's in that order, underscore BTN, and blue underscore BTN. Okay, so let's look again. Home underscore BTN, red, green, and blue, right? RGB, the colors of the spectrum. Okay, so now that we have those created, I'm just gonna arrange them. Going to say put this one about here, and then I'm going to select all of them. So I'm going to go Window, Align, and the one that I want is Horizontal Align, which Horizontal Distribution, which is this one. But you have to select them. There they go. See how they're nice and evenly distributed? Okay, we want to close that. So now we have these buttons that are evenly distributed. I'm going to eyeball them to be in the center. So we have home, red, green, blue, right? Now we're going to go to the timeline. Now in the timeline, we're going to give it some time. We're going to insert frame. Not keyframe, but frame. We're just extending that main keyframe out so that we have some time to work with. Now I'm going to also click in here and show you that I have some actions in here already. So if I right click and I go to actions, this is just the generic button action that's ready to be used on these buttons. So here is where the button name is going to go. Add event listener. This is for the mouse click. And then it has the function name, which goes to the function name. and then it executes whatever was here. And what's here is it's going to go to the frame name, which will be up here later, and it'll stop there. But we'll get back to that later on. Just wanted you to see that it was there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a new layer, put it underneath. I'm going to name that top layer with a navigation in it. I'm going to call it Master Nav. And I'm going to name the one underneath it. It's going to be called Subnav. Okay. Because this is where our sub-navigation is going to go. Each one of these is going to have 3 separate sub-navigation locations plus its own home location. So what we're going to do now that we have these made is I can simply just take 3 of these, since I'm going to have 3 buttons. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to go down to the subnav and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to then bring them up where they fit quite nicely, and I'm going to squish them because I want them to be a different shape. Now these have the same instance names on them. I want to change those. So since this is going to be red first that I'm going to work with, I'm going to name this red 1 BTN. This is going to be not green, but it's going to be red 2 BTN. This is going to be red 3 BTN for the 3 sub areas. Okay, so on the master nav, I'm going to turn it off. I have the master navigation buttons. On the sub nav, I have the sub navigation buttons. See that? Okay. Now I'm going to select these again, and I'm just going to make them red since that's the color we're talking about. Go to Tint over here in the Properties, Color Effect. I'm going to go find red. Interesting. Intensify that a little bit. Okay, so I have the names named. Now what I need to do is I actually need to put some indicator of what these are. And we're going to do that with text. So I'm going to just put text on top of these. I'm going to go back up to the master nav. I'm going to click right here. I didn't want to work, so I'm going to click here. There we go. So this is going to be the home, and I'm just going to use H as the home. Okay, H. I'm going to drag the H. I'm going to put it right here. Now that H is the same color, but I'm going to color it to be white. So now that I can see it. Now the H is separate from the box. Okay, it's just an indicator to let me know that that button is the home button, even though it's not connected to it. So I'm going to go over here to the size of the font and make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to use my arrows on my keyboard. Get the size I want. Deselect from the font size, select the text again. Eyeball it to center it. Okay, and then I'm going to hold Control and Alt down again, and I'm going to duplicate the H and just draw that across. Which lets me then just quickly get another font the same size as I already got, so that I can use in the other ones. Notice all this is being done in the master nav. I'm going to double click in here, make this our R for red. Okay, come over here, G, and come over here, B. All right. I suppose I probably could use different colors in the background to make it more color correct. But for the moment, I'm going to leave it like that. So the letters are separate from the buttons. Okay? Now I'm going to take one of these letters, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to go down to the sub-navigation and I'm going to paste it. It's down here, it's white so you can't see it until it goes over the red. Now I'm going to make the font size smaller. Okay, deselect, reselect. And this just has to be, I'm going to make this R1 for red 1. Okay, hold Control and Alt down, and then I drag it across again, and then I can double click in here and make that a 2, this one a 3. All I've been doing is just setting up the buttons. They don't go anywhere right now, they're just kind of there. I'm going to arrange these. Align them. All right, they seem to be aligned correctly. All right, now we have our master navigation buttons and we have one of the sub button sets. Okay, and we're going to have 3 sub button sets, so one for the red, one for the green, and one for the blue, and then we're going to have a home area, right? So we're going to come up to the timeline and I'm going to drag, I click once and I click, hold, and drag across to move this over a little bit. I did that to move that keyframe over. So I'm going to now name these frames so that I can refer to them in the code when I'm programming the buttons. So the frame label name for this one is going to be home, and I'm going to make it all capitalized so that I can recognize what it is in the code. And I'm then going to come over here to this about right here, and I'm going to insert a new keyframe, and I just duplicated the keyframe before it. So these red buttons just got duplicated in this keyframe. They're exactly the same as this one. But now it gives me the opportunity to modify them and make them in green. And then I'm going to name them differently on the top so visually they look different. So this is going to be G1 for green 1, G2 for green 2, G3 for green 3. Okay, I'm going to deselect. Now I have to be very careful to change the name, because remember before these buttons themselves had instance names given to them. Red, now they're green, right? So this is going to be green 1. And green 2. And green 3 BTN. So now you can see up here I have a navigation structure beginning to take shape. So now this red frame here, I'm going to name it as red over here in the frame label. So capital R-E-D for red. You see that the name now shows up there with the flag. The flag indicates that that frame has a label, even though you can see it clearly it's red. But if it only had one frame visible, that flag would indicate that there was a label there, even though you wouldn't be able to read it. Okay, so I'm going to continue that again. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to insert a new keyframe, and it duplicated the one previous. And so now I'm going to make these the blue. So I'm going to come down here, make this blue, select them with Shift held down, make them blue again. Is that the same blue? Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to change the letters on the top so that they reflect what they are for the humans that are looking at this. This is going to be B1. Select this other one, B2. Select this other one, B3. And now I'm going to rename the instances of these buttons from the green to be blue. So this is going to be blue 1, blue 2, and then blue 3, BTN. Now we have all of our buttons made. And now I'm going to get rid of this extra space over here by selecting it, right click, remove frames. So here is our structure. We have a home, we have red, and now I'm going to name this one green because it's the green one. Capital green, R-E-E-N. And then the last one is blue, all capital. Okay, so we have master navigation structure, home, red, green, and blue. Now we are going to make our functionality happen so that we can have the first layer of our functionality. So let's go back over here to where our first layer is. We're going to right click on that first layer. It has an A, which indicates that there's actually ActionScript already in this frame. So right click on it, go down to Actions, bring up our Actions panel. Now you may not have this in yours obviously, so you're going to type this in. So pause the movie and type all this in. Okay. So the first one, we need the button name. What was the button name? So the first one is home. We're going to click on the home button. We have to deselect and then select just that home button. We come over here and find out what its name is. It's home_BTN. It's very critical that you get that exact. So you could be safe and just go select it and copy it, and then click back up here again to get your actions again. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to paste. See, home BTN. It's going to go to function name. Now function name, this function name is right now pointing to this one because that's the name of it, function name. But we're just going to semantically give it a name so it makes sense to us where it's going. This is home, so I'm just going to say go H for go home. Okay, and that means I have to change this to the same name so that they are connected. Go H, and now they're connected. Okay. The next thing that I have to do is I have to put the name of the frame, go to and stop on the frame name. So I have to go find the frame name. So I'm going to go up here, click on the frame name. The frame name displays over here in the label. I can select it and copy it. I can go back over here to my actions and I can then highlight the area and paste it. And I can be sure it's spelled correctly. Now if you think you know how to spell it, I should say how you spelled it before when you named either the frame or the buttons, then you can go ahead and do that. But it's always safe to copy and paste because if you spelled anything differently, it will not work and the movie will go crazy. It'll go haywire. If it does, you want to look up here in the compiler errors to see what they are. And it'll help you find what error you made. Okay, now that we have that, we have a button that says go home. But it's not quite working right. Now we're just going to do a quick test. Even though that's correct, I want to show you what happens when you don't put a stop in here. So it's just cycling through right now. See, it's cycling through. So we have to put a stop in here. So we're going to stop, parentheses, semicolon, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. I'm going to put a comment out, and this right here is the master navigation. That's just for me to know what it is. So when I hit Control Enter, okay, it stops. It's waiting for you to go home. But right now, home is already home. Now I want you to take a look at this and notice what my mouse is doing. When the mouse is over the H, it's not working. See, the button's not moving until I move off of the H. And we don't want that. The reason that's happening is because there's something on here called TLF text, which is interfering with the functionality, so we have to change the nature of the text. Not hard to do, you just got to be aware of what it is. So we're going to select all of the text. So we're going to select all of this text right here. And we're going to come over on the properties. It says TLF text, and we're going to hold this down. We're going to go to classic text. It changed a little bit, so now I've got to move things around. So I move it back up in place. Now it's still not going to work because I should say these also need to be changed. So I'm going to go to all of the text and all of the document here and change them to classic text. Then I have to reselect it and put those back in place. 2 stops up. It's very important that you put these in the exact position because when people are flipping through this, they want to see these things stay in the same place. So I did 2 stops up when I just did that. So set this to classic text. Click once on here to retarget the text instead of the properties panel, and then I'm going to go 2 stops up. 1, 2. Do it on the blue. Deselect because everything was selected. Select just the text. And since I haven't selected them now, I'm going to do 2 stops up just so they're already done and make it classic text. Let's see what it did. It seems to be in the same place as the others, so I'm going to let it stay. Now let's test. So Control Enter. When I roll over the H, see the button? It's active and it's working. Roll over the R, the G, the B, and it's working. Okay? So I'm going to close that, and then we'll just continue on. So now that we have this first button done, we can just copy and paste it so that we have 4 copies of it, right? Because we have 4 buttons on the master. And all we have to do is then put the names of the rest of the buttons in here. So this one would be the red button, right? And this one is going to be over here, go R. And we're going to make this one. And then this one's going to be green. Go G. And then go G. And then this one is going to be blue, which is lowercase. Go B. And go B. Now look at that. These are almost done. What you have to do now is do this, and then these will be done. So capital RED, capital green, capital blue. Now this code is fully functional for the master navigation, but the sub-navigation is not done yet. So let's test it out. So here's home, here's red, green, and blue, right? Green, red, green, blue. So it works. Now let's do the rest of it. We can take this code and we'll select it, but not the stop. We only need that stop to be up there once in the master. We don't need it elsewhere. Not for this anyway. So we're going to copy these buttons. We only need 3 of them actually, so we're going to copy 3 of these buttons. And we're going to go into the red navigation frame. Okay. In here, we're going to paste, and I'm going to put in that this is the red navigation. Okay. So we just need to get the names of these buttons. But the thing is, though, we don't have their sub-navigation created yet. So we could do it now or we could do it later. But since we're here, we'll do it now. And then we'll hope we can get it to work right later. But anyway, the first button's name here is red 1 BTN. And then it goes to red 2 and to red 3. So click back on the frame. So it goes to red 1. And then this is going to be red 2 BTN, and this one will be red 3 BTN. Okay, so this is I'm just going to name this R. Go R1, go R1. This is going to be go R2, go R2, and go R3, and go R3. So now this navigation is set up as far as that is concerned, but now we need to set up the frame names. So I will in the future, in just a moment, name these frames. So it'll be called red, I'm going to call it actually R1 is going to be the frame name. Okay, and then R2, and then R3 will be that frame name when it exists. All right, and that's how the rest of them will have to be done. And since I already have this structure and I know how I'm going to do it, I'll go ahead and just select all of this navigation and copy it, and I can go to the green and I can paste, and then all I have to do is replace this with green 1, because that's their name, remember? Green 2, green 3 BTN. And just to be safe, I'm going to come over here to check. So I'm going to go here, click off, click back on in the properties. See, green 1 BTN, green 2 BTN, green 3 BTN. Those are the names of those buttons. Okay, click back on that green one. And now this is going to be a G1, G1, G2, G2, G3, G3, and it's all good. Right? Nope, we got to do these too. G1, G2, G3. So the names of the frames will be G1, G2, G3. Okay, let's get this one set up. So we're going to paste and do this all again. I don't think I named the other one, but this is going to be called blue navigation. Let me flip back to the green and make this the green navigation. Okay, back to blue. This is going to be blue 1, blue 2, blue 3, B1, B1, B2, B2. And if you use a capital B, you have to use a capital B over here too. You've got to make sure you remember exactly what you do and use the same. All of my navigation is now done. So the master navigation up here looks like this. It has a home button, the red, green, and blue master buttons, and then they refer to these other places. And then you go to the red navigation area, and you have the red sub-buttons code, and the green sub-buttons code, and the blue sub-buttons code. Okay, now we're going to make the content. So make a new layer, drag it underneath. You can name it content. So right here we're going to insert a keyframe. Okay. And right here we're going to insert a keyframe. Well, I'm going to put one here too. Insert keyframe, insert keyframe. Just so you understand that each one of these main areas is going to be right underneath that main navigation and those buttons. So right here is going to be the home area. Like when you click on the big master red button, it goes here first. And then over here will be the sub red 1, sub red 2, and sub red 3. So I'm going to go right here and insert a keyframe. I'm going to go here and insert another keyframe. Here and insert another keyframe. So we have 4 of them up here. We've got the home one that you're going to go to when you click on that master red button. And then you have sub 1, sub 2, and sub 3. So I'm going to name this. Remember, this has to be named the way it was in the code. So just to be safe, let's go look at the code and see what it said. It was R1, and then R2, and then R3. Okay? They sound like Star Wars droid names, but anyway. So R1 is this frame right here. So this is R1. The next one is going to be R2. This one is going to be R3. Okay, so they're named correctly, but they don't have anything in them right now. So we're just going to put something very simple so that we can know what it is we're looking at. So this one that says red, I'm just going to put a big word in here that says red. So red. And I'm going to give it a color that I can see. Obviously, it's going to be red. And I'm going to make the size nice and big. Put it up here so that we can see it. And I'm going to make it even bigger than it's letting me here. So I'm going to go here. Actually, I'm going to go here and type it in here. So I'm going to make this say 200. Okay, so you understand that you're at the red master link. Okay, now on the second one is where we're going to have the red 1 stuff. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to make a box, just a big box, as a placeholder, which is red, and I'm going to get rid of the outline that is white, and I'm going to put text in here, and I'm going to call this R1, and I want to make this color to be white so that it can be seen. Okay. Now it looks to me like all of this text is coming out as classic text, which is what I want. All right. So R1. So see this? R1 up here is R1 down here, and red home is red here. So now I'm going to come to this R1 thing, and I'm going to copy all this, and I'm going to copy. I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to go edit, paste in place, so it goes exactly in the same place. This is going to be 2. And then I'm going to go back over to the next one, and I'm going to go edit, paste in place. I'm going to make this one 3. And so now as I roll across, there's the home, there's the R1, R2, and R3. So let's do a quick test. Control Enter. So I click on the red, takes me to the red's home. Click on R1, R1, click on R2, R2, click on R3, R3. So let's go ahead and finish up the rest of them. Now what I can do actually is I can select all of these right here. I'm going to copy frames, and I'm going to select all this area, and I'm going to paste frames. Right click, paste frames, so I don't have to do all that all over again. Okay. I have an extra area in here, so I'm just going to select these 2, and I'm going to remove these 2. so that it makes it the same size. So now these are identical. Now I just got to change them. So now this, instead of saying red, is going to say green. Ooh, looks like it might be a little bit big. So I'm gonna make it lowercase so that it fits, because I don't want to mess with the size. Okay, so I'm gonna make this green. Then I'm gonna go to the next one, and I'm gonna make this background color green. And I'm gonna double click on the font in here and make this a green 1. Click on the arrow. Okay, so there's the green 1. Go over here. Now there's a reason why I copied and pasted it over here, is because I want it to be exactly in the same position. And so changing the attributes of the colors and the words is easier than trying to get it in the same position. Okay, so I'm going to change this to a green 2. Click on the arrow. Make this green. I'm using the green of the box here as my source. Go up here. Make this green. Make this a G for green. Click over here. Now, if I try to play this, it's not going to work. Do you know why? Watch. I got errors. It says, warning, 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 duplicate label, scene 1. Scene 1 layer content frame 19, 21, and 23. R1, R2, R3. So it's telling me that I have duplicate frame names. And what I didn't finish and didn't do was I didn't change these frame names. So I have to go to the properties bar and change this frame name to G1 instead of R1 for the red one. Okay, and then this one's going to be called G2. This one's going to be called G3. Okay, everything's named correctly. Now it should work. So we roll over the red, we click, we get the red, we roll over the red 1 button, we get the red 1, red 2, red 3. Click on green, we get the green, green 1, green 2, green 3. Now we're going to do the green, now we're going to do the blue button. Okay, so I'm actually going to select this again. I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy those frames. I'm going to select this area where I want to paste those frames. I'm going to paste frames, and it happened to be the same size, which was nice. And now I'm going to go ahead and rename those frame labels to begin with. So this is going to be called B1. B1. This is going to be called B2. And this is going to be called B3. So do a double check and make sure they're named correctly. Okay, so now the frame names are good. Now all we have to do is change the values in here. So we're going to make this say blue. Whoops. I like the lowercase better. And then we have to make it blue, right? So now we have our blue home area. Now we come to our blue 1 area, or B1 area. Name it B1. Make the background color to be the blue too. Or I should say blue as well. And then we'll do it again for this area. And then change this to be a B2. One more left. Deselect, select, change color to blue, test, Control Enter. So red, green, blue, B1, B2, B3. So we know that they all are working. and we can navigate very easily, very quickly. The home works, but the home doesn't have any kind of an indicator that it's home. So let's go put some sort of an indicator that the home is home. So we'll just come over here to one of these master areas. I'm going to change this red to a lowercase so it's the same as the rest. And then I'm going to borrow it. I'm going to go copy that. I'm going to go over to the home area and I'm going to paste. All right, paste right in there. And then what I want to do is I'm also going to put some sort of a background in here. So it's not just this area. Name it home first. So home. And I'm going to name home. I'm going to color home black. And now I want a background. So I'm going to just make us a big square. And I'm going to put it in the background just as a placeholder for content. So it's not one big white thing. Okay, I'm going to double click on the stroke line and then I'm going to change the color to something interesting. Let's do a quick recap. You have your master navigation buttons in the top layer, master nav. Your button is one square that's been used multiple times for all the buttons. Makes it very easy and efficient to download. All the letters or words in front of it probably should be classic text, and all they are just letters in front of it, words in front of it that indicate to the viewer that this button is what it is, but it's not connected to the button in any other way. Your subnavigation is in each one of the subnavigation areas. Both the action script and the buttons live in that frame. See? Here's the blue navigation where the action script and the buttons live. Okay? All the content is on the bottom layer. As I turn these off, you can see what is in what layer. There's one more thing that you need to do. You need to help them to have some sort of an indicator as what button they might be on. And the way that you can do that very simply is on the subnav area for the master nav. You're going to take that square. You could take any square, but we're going to use the square to do this. So on the home, I'm going to bring out the home square. Now, not the pulse, but the square. And I'm going to bring it out. Notice I'm on the home frame, and I'm behind this. And I'm going to give it a color right now. I'm going to give it a specific color. I'm going to give it a black tint. Actually, I'm going to use brightness to give it black. So this is the square, the same square. And I'm going to put it behind it, but I'm going to make it bigger. And what it's doing is indicating that you are on the home area, okay? So I make it just a little bit bigger. See, notice it's not on the master nav layer. It's on this subnav layer because it's underneath a button. And so now I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go over here to the red subnav, and I'm going to paste it in here. I deselect it, and then I paste, and I'm going to put it behind the red one. Now see what happens when I move across it. It appears behind the button of the location that you're at. So now I'm going to go over to the green, and I'm going to paste that one and bring that one up here. And then I'm going to go to the blue, and I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to paste that one up here. And so it has the effect of being an indicator as to where you're at in the navigation. So when I hit Control Enter and I click on these, see that black shows up wherever you've clicked because it's in that area. Now, let's do the same thing for the sub ones. Take that same black, which is now still in memory, I have it copied. I'm going to go to the sub area of the R1 and I'm going to paste. And this time I'm going to put it right behind that and I'm going to squish it so that it fits nice there. And I'll just leave it. I'll zoom in a little bit and make it just a tiny bit bigger. And this is going to indicate for us that we're on that button. I want it to be a little smaller here, so we're going to make it just a little bit smaller. Okay, but it acts as an indicator. All right, now that that's done, for that one, I've done all that sizing up. I'm going to select it again so that I can just use that, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go over to the R2 area. See, I'm in the R2 area now, and I'm going to deselect. Now notice, these go inside the content area because they've got to be underneath these areas. You see that? They've got to be underneath these areas. So they each one are going to go in the content areas, which are underneath the sub buttons. So while I'm in this content area of R2, I'm going to paste, and then I can simply and quickly bring it up. And I can go to the content area of the R3 area and paste, and I can quickly and simply bring it up and it snaps nicely in there. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to do this for the green. I am in green. This is G1, right? So we're going to put this under the G1. Okay, go over to the G2 and deselect, paste, put this under the G2. Deselect, go to the G3, deselect, paste. Go over here underneath the G3, and then do the same thing for the blue. So paste, right, B1, B1, deselect, go to B2, deselect, paste, drag it up here, deselect, go here, deselect, paste. There we go. Now let's test. So we have our home, our red, green, and blue, right? Red, green, and blue. And I'm going to change those button colors so that they actually turn the color we want them to be. Okay, see that though? Then we have our sub buttons, and they have their little indicators of where they're at. And you can tell where everything's at by that navigation. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is come in here and make this tint red. This tint is going to be a green. It's a different green. And then this tint is going to be a blue. I'm trying to stay away from that intense blue. I'll just go there. Okay, so let's test it. All looking pretty good. All right, that's how you do navigation inside of Flash.